environmental and social impact. So these developments, as we can see, collectively indicate the positive trajectory that is for Uganda's economy, with substantial growth prospects driven by strategic investments and also infrastructure development. Now, let's take a look at something here. A report that was published, that is by the Wall Street Journal. Let me try to get it here. Of course, discussing the new investment superpower outflanking China and the United States in Africa. Now, we had talked about the United Arab Emirates, but now let's have the in-depth outlook into this. Now, across the world, United States and China and Russia are rubbing up against each other as Beijing and Moscow try to establish a new international order. Now, the tiny United Arab Emirates is also looking into, closer to the home. Now, the petrostate has invested billions of dollars, that is on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula and Africa, where it is now emerging a significant player and at times muscling out China and annoying the United States and others. And it has taken sides when it comes to the local wars and spent heavily on buying firm land ports and other projects that could actually reduce the benefits in that line. So, as we said, these are investments that are totaling to about 92 billion United States dollars, 92 to 97 that. So let's expect that to actually work out for Uganda as we proceed along the journey. As we proceed along the journey to see how these developments really turn out. Now, the presidential elections also, as Donald Trump is actually going to be swearing in, that is come January, around late January there. There is a lot of anticipations, most especially for the financial markets, the stock markets, most especially, particularly the cryptocurrencies. And now, this will definitely heavily have a huge impact for the traders, the local traders in Uganda, those that import from the various countries. Because remember, the dollar is actually the one that is actually available. It's the one that is available to trade on. I'm talking about the large scale aspect. So let's anticipate, and the stock markets seem to be going to, because according to the experts, they believe that we're going to experience the longest bull run ever that might run till 2029 when the Bitcoin halving will actually happen. The next halving will be happening in 2028 of the Bitcoin. So the bull run in the crypto market, in the stock market, is going to be quite on a steady rise, according to what we see. Because Donald Trump recently, the person that is going to make as the executive secretary, his executive secretary is actually a pro-crypto person. So that is why we believe that. Now, taking a look at other establishments here. On October, that is in October 2024, Uganda established that is a state-owned mining company that is to manage the government equity stakes in mining operations. Now, we know that this initiative follows approval of a new mining law that is in 2022, permitting the government to take compulsory 15% free carry stake in all mining projects. So we shall be also looking at that. Now, what is the impact for Uganda like? Of course, increased revenue by holding this equity. I will see that the government will actually aim to increase its share of wealth generated from the mineral resources and enhancing what we call the national revenue, and also to stabilize, the shilling, in some kind of a way. Now, the value addition also, where the government is actually promoting domestic processing of minerals, that is to add a value to export, which can actually lead to industrial growth and creating the jobs in the long term. Now, the exploration of new oil region has actually, new regions has been a key feature, that is for 2024. Now, in August 2024, Uganda commenced preliminary petroleum exploration studies, this according to the report, in in two new regions, that is in Moroto, Kadam Basin in the northeast, and the Choga Basin. Now, early results suggest a potential for commercial oil and gas in the Moroto Kadam Basin. So you can actually see how this is really working out for the country. Uganda, best position to really benefit from that. And all that will only be experienced if the money, obtained from oil gets to the intended beneficiaries. That is the fact. If it's no way the other way around, that's when we can, say that the Ugandans are really going to benefit from that. Now, discovering new oil reserves has bolstered Uganda's proven reserves currently at 6.5 billion barrels, enhancing the country's energy security export potential. Discovery. We're discovering new regions every other day, discovering new minerals every other day. And that is the spirit of exploration is actually very vital, because at the stage we are in, there is still a lot that we haven't yet really exploited. According to my observation, we've only exploited about our ability to about 3 to 5%, or even 10% if it's maybe the maximum to that. That's what I can say. That's the farthest we have been. Now, the new oil discoveries, which will attract the foreign investment, they'll create jobs and contribute to the infrastructure development, stimulating the development that is economic growth in the long run. So shall be looking into that. And then the exploration in the new regions can actually lead to the development of the previously underdeveloped areas, promoting a regional economic balance. Now, this is very vital. As much as the oil could be in plenty, that if there is no control when it comes to extraction, and it's the only alternative source, that is also dangerous. Recently we had a report of India, because it's considered to be one of the fastest growing economies globally. And the sad bit of it was that they produce, but the infrastructure is largely strained. The infrastructure is largely strained. So that is something that is very, I want to believe many governments only look at the profitability side, but what is helping you to produce is not really being catered for. So in the long run, this will affect the production quality, and your competitiveness on the global market is definitely going to be questioned. Why? Because you're overstraining the infrastructure. You cannot produce the capacity that you have to produce, because the infrastructure is very strained. This is what has actually been initially like. Now, the exploration of new oil regions is actually a blessing to this country. I'll say that. It's a huge blessing. Having a variety, of these, and also the discovery of other minerals is also looking into as something very vital. Now, the financial, this is going to create massive jobs, and it's going to also improve the relations. There is going to be a lot of sharing of ideas. The biggest challenge we have here is that most of the expatriates, when they come into this country, the locals don't get a chance to get the skills that these expatriates come with. Of course, this is due to various reasons. But I would think the locals shouldn't wait for the government to organize sessions for you to be trained. Through the observation, you can actually be able to pick something from that. Let me give you an example. During the times of the earliest centuries, I think we're talking about the era where the Dutch were actually the prominent people at the time. The British used to be the ones that used to construct. Okay, the British were hired to help out when it comes to the construction of the boats, because the Dutch used them to connect to India, which was a huge trade route in Asia. And once you could actually have it, you could actually be at the center of the entire world, where you can, easily navigate freely. Now, what happened is that these British people came as slaves. They didn't come as expatriates, but okay, they were more of put there just to, to help out. But while there, they were observant of what these people were doing exactly. And what happens, they took these skills back home it's the reason why we see Britain became one of the very powerful empires ever. It was a result of that. I mean, you observe, and this is the chance we have as a country, Uganda, because entirely there's going to be a lot of foreign companies that are going to come in to exploit this oil. You know, they may not be necessarily oil companies, but because there are other services. For example, some people are going to establish maybe restaurants near the oil places. Some are going to establish clinics to treat in case somebody gets an injury. A lot of services, you know. But there is something that we really need to, you know, we need to wake up. That's what I can say as Uganda. It's not just about looking at the expatriates and just to admire the skills that they put out there, but observe, you know, follow the British, what they really did. Because in most cases, most of these countries that have reached the peak of growth, a time reaches and development starts to slant a little bit. Why? Because priorities now shift. They're not all about growth, but it's all about leisure. So, during that process, the developing nations have a chance to actually rise up. Now, as we see the new rising empire, that is China. You know, of course, it's still in the early stages of that, but later on, we anticipate that it will be very vital for that. Okay, now let's take a look at a report here, which really indicates the further analysis entailing Uganda's discovery of new oil regions. Now, Uganda is exploring for oil in two regions where potential discoveries, that is of crude oil, could increase the East African country's proven reserves of about 6.5% billion barrels, its energy minister said on Wednesday. Now, the commercial quantities of crude oil were actually discovered on the Albertine Graben Basin in Uganda's west near the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo nearly 2 decades ago, but the production is not projected to start until next year. Now, the government geologists are exploring two new regions that is located in Uganda, north and northeast. Energy Minister Ruth Nankabira told the press this was about 3 months ago. Now, the ministry also was conducting what we call a preliminary petroleum exploration studies that is in Moroto Dam Basin to assess its oil and gas potential. Now, similar surveys have started, that is in Choga Basin, she said, of course, referring to the two new regions. Now, the early results suggest that potential for commercial oil and gas in the Moroto Dam Basin, as we see. Now, Uganda has about 5 basins, you know, according to the Reuters report, has about 5 basins where the hydrocarbon potential is actually suspected, with only one, the Albertine successfully explored so far. The Energy Ministry told the press during that particular time. Now, the two oil fields in the Albertine Basin, that is Tilenga and Kingfisher, are the majority owned by Total Energies with a 56.7% stake, while China's CNOOC and the Uganda National Company UNOC own the remaining share. Now, the commercial production has actually been delayed by the various factors, that is, we can say, including the disagreements with the oil firms over field deployment strategy and taxation and the lack of infrastructure and funding to develop it. Now, proceeding as I wind this up, only 72 out of the 457 planned wells have actually been drilled. That is in the Tilenga and the Kingfisher oil fields. Now, this according to what the Minister of Energy said, and all firms had actually submitted a plan for a liquefied petroleum gas facility for which the government planned to issue a license. Now, the government expects a decision next month from Chinese funders, including Exim Bank and Sinner, that Uganda has actually been wooing to provide a credit for the proposed East African crude oil pipeline. That's still according to what the Minister of Energy said relating to that. Now, the 1,445 kilometer EACOP will actually help Uganda to export its crude crude via the port on Tanzania's Indian Ocean coast. As we see that. Anyway, let's wait and see how this really turns out to be. The oil exploration, and the various, economic potential infrastructure that is actually very necessary for this, because we're heading into 2025, and majority of the people, of course, there is fear, a lot of fear of the inflation. Taking a look at what trends our economy seems to be taking, despite the little easing of the inflation. It's just a year to watch out. The elections definitely are on the way, and we know what it really means for business during that time of elections. It's always quite a very tricky period. So you gotta be careful. If you're a business owner, you're running an enterprise, you gotta be very careful, because we know one aspect for sure is that trying to intertwine politics and business can actually have repercussions, not only on the side of the people you're against, but also on the side of the people that I call your customers. Who are your would-be customers, they're largely affected, because it's okay to have a political side. It's very fine. But the question is, ensure that there is something that whatever you're standing in for doesn't get into the way of your consumers and your customers at large. So that is very vital. And well, exactly 23 minutes past 9. This is Smart Means Business. So I'm very grateful for all the way when we kick-started up from 7 a.m. You've been a part of it. Keep watching Smart 24 TV. And now it's time to say goodbye. And we go make further analysis and take a look at what is it likely for 2025 for the different sectors, talking about the agriculture sector, the industry sector, the services sector, and so many of the sectors, the health sector. What is it there for in 2025? What is the prediction like, and what do we anticipate? Well, let me wish you a very happy morning, and we shall be looking up again tomorrow. Good morning.